let's get started at the beginning. James Moran, the man, the legend.
The myth. Yeah, I mean, yeah, famous in the sense that if you go to a science fiction convention and take my picture around, a few people will probably go, "Oh yeah, I know the guy." So I'm moderately well known in very small circles, which is fine.
and before that, where did James begin? Where are you from?
Oh God, I'm from all over the place. I was born in England. We moved to Ireland. I came back to England. I've got a complete mishmash of an accent because we moved all around England and all around Ireland. So it's not even English or Irish. It's kind of halfway between top and bottom.
Irish.
Yeah, more or less mishmash, as I like to call it. So I've been writing since I was 4 years old. Obviously, they not to a professional level when I was 4. I wasn't hired on any writing staff.
Surprisingly,
not for. But I was in a small town, and in my head I thought, wouldn't it be nice to be able to write stories for a living? But that's all it was. It was just, that doesn't happen to people like me. It doesn't happen at all. And then obviously years and years and years later, and rejections and trying, and then kind of thinking, oh, actually this could be something I might be able to get into at some point. And it kind of gradually kind of happened almost by accident. I mean, I was trying, so it was deliberate, but it kind of, it feels like the kind of career you have to kind of come at it sideways, kind of fall into through a different door to the one you're expecting.
And so here you are. And those dreams at 4, now that you're, in your 20s, they've been fully realized.
Absolutely, yeah. And I've been, past sort of between 5 and 10 years, I've been doing some teaching here and there, and it started off very casually, just being a kind of a guest speaker on and off at a film school. Then I kind of did a bit more of it and a bit more of it, and then a couple of years ago I was on a full course where I was the screenwriting tutor and guiding lots of students through finding their project and their idea and developing it, and kind of giving them feedback on their scripts, helping them through, almost being like a therapist at times, because a lot of writing is kind of sitting down in the middle of the night thinking you're terrible. So yes, we had a few sort of not in the middle of the night, daytime Zoom sessions, which were scheduled with all the students, and half the time, they didn't want me to kind of go, let's work through your script or talk through your idea. They just wanted me to kind of go, that sounds good. I think you've got something, and you have some talent, and you should keep going.
Validation, permission.
Yeah. And some of them, like I'd get 2 minutes in, and they'd start crying. Oh God, it's not that bad. No, they'd be in tears because they're just like I never thought I'd be able to do this, and just knowing that someone thinks I might be able to do it, even if I can't do it, someone thinks I might be able to, when everyone else has sort of doubted them, including themselves. It's a powerful thing. So like we all need that. I still need that now. I don't think that ever goes away. That insecurity and that worry that you're terrible. It's imposter syndrome, and there is no cure for it, unfortunately. And many people who don't get imposter syndrome are imposters, because they think they're great and brilliant, and they can't understand why no one's buying their stuff. They're just going, "Oh, I'm amazing! This is the best script I've ever written." So if you have got imposter syndrome, that suggests that you are actually good and that you know what you're doing. You just won't ever. It's the curse. You just won't ever feel like you know what you're doing.
Right. And I have to imagine you have a good grip on imposters, because they would be, they're regular features in your scripts as characters. And so I'm called to ask, what has been your favorite all-time project? What has given you the most joy and buzz and satisfaction that you would be like, I would love to do that, want something like that again?
Oh wow! I don't, and they kind of all are in different ways. I mean, selling my first film script, I still remember that day. So I was still working a day job, and we'd finished work for the day, and we were in the pub, and I kept having to leave the pub to go outside because my agent kept phoning up with their latest offer, or what they were trying to negotiate, and they want to do this, they want to do that, and I've told them this, that, and I was just going to go, okay, just do do whatever they want. And he was like, no, I'm not going to do that. That's why I'm your agent. I'll come back to you. And I had to keep kind of going back to the pub and drinking and just kind of like, when's he going to phone back? Is it falling apart? So I'll never forget that. And then the first day on set of that, walking on set and seeing, it was a scene that I'd written because there's a moment where the characters are about to get away, and I was in the middle. I remember writing the draft, and I was like, "Oh God, they're going to get away, and the film's over, and it can't be over yet. It's not. It's 20 minutes left." And I just thought, "Oh, what if there's like if the killer has hidden a rope trap, so the lead character's running away and steps on something and a foot gets yanked up, and then that'll lead into a whole confrontation, and it was just a little kind of way of kind of not ending the script. And I got on set that day. I arrived and there was the stunt double for the lead actress in the same outfit. There was 80 people in a forest in Hungary. There was a big piece of scaffolding and a rope so that they could pull the stunt double up, and two big Hungarian men in very short shorts who were ready to jump off and pull the stunt double up. And I just kind of stopped, and I went, oh, this is. I only put this in so that the story didn't end. I was just saying to the producer, I was like, you don't have to do this. This was just to stop the person escaping. We could do something else. In my head thinking, oh, I don't want to be too much trouble. he said it's fine. He said we're not going to not do it just because it's difficult. We're going to do this.
Lovely lesson. Lovely.
So just things like that, and just kind of, I think, first moments, first TV jobs, and then first big TV moments, and first time an actor asked something and asked if they could change a line, and me just going, I'd spent ages working on the script, and they come, it's okay if I say this, and I was just so happy to be there. I was like, say whatever you want, I don't care.
Did you feel like that was like some kind of journey of becoming, like each of those moments was like, oh yeah, this is real. I'm actually here.
Yeah, absolutely.
So lovely.
I just and sort of because it was also sort of new and different and interesting. Sort of looking back on it now, I'd think, I wish on every single project, I wish that I'd taken a moment to just kind of stop, go, right, stop, take it all in, and just remember this and focus on this. But because it's happening, you can't really sort of do that.
You're in the flow.
And that, like, being on the set of Doctor Who, the Doctor Who I'd written, and chatting to the character, the actor playing the Doctor, who's in costume. So it's kind of like I was chatting to the Doctor. But we were a full 360 set, so it felt like we were in this ancient Pompeii villa next to the TARDIS, and that there's all these steam vents. That was kind of like, this is amazing. This is absolutely crazy. And the first sort of 5 sets I was on, I would try and sort of keep it, not get in the way, because there was always a cable strip over. There was a camera to stand in front of.
Oh, I could imagine.
I had a knack for trying to, like, keeping out of the way, and then somebody going, you're right in the middle of the shot. And oh, sorry. And after about 5 or 6 times of this happening, someone kind of went, here's a little tip so that you're not in the shot. If you stand behind one of the lights, because they're not going to have the light in shot. So if you stand behind a light, then you won't be in the shot. So so there was one day of filming, and I was like, this is great. I know what to do. I'm a professional now. I'm an expert. And I went and I stood behind a big light. Right. And they're about to start filming, and they went, you're in the middle of the shot. And I was like, I'm behind a light. And they went, yeah, that's a light in the scene. It's in the actual scene that is going to be.
Oh man, I can imagine
any light.
So I'm ready to just jump over the pond and come and buy you some beers and just hang out and hear all these stories. You probably have 1,000 of these stories. But that first movie, what was it called?
That was Severance, the horror movie.
That was the first.
Yeah.
Wow, how long ago?
That was filmed in 2005. So I wrote it in 2003. Spent a year writing it. It sold in 2004, and then I spent about another 8 months working on it with the film company and the director. And then we filmed in 2005, and then it came out in 2006. It's crazy that this year now it will have been 20 years. It feels like a few months ago.
Yesterday.
I can still see it clearly, just being on that set. Yeah, and just seeing all the the amount of people and equipment, and then
the impact. I mean,
oh
that,
yeah, yeah,
you know, of like, here I am writing this script, and then wow, look at all this actual realization.
Never dreaming that it would get made, especially during that year I spent writing it. I did everything wrong writing a film script, and so it took me a long time to fix it. I'm much quicker now, thankfully. And then just arriving on set and then seeing all this kind of apparatus and people and then they started shooting, and I heard the actors kind of going through the thing and doing the lines, and I just suddenly I got really overwhelmed. And I was just like, I think I'm going to start crying. I think I just got there, and I didn't want to look like a weirdo. So I ran to the toilets. I ran to the portable on set toilets and just locked myself in the toilet and cried for about 10 minutes. Yeah. Just happening. It was just happening. Yeah. And I was like, okay, they're going to think I've got diarrhea. So I sort of cleaned myself up and got back on set. Yeah. But I still get, not to that extent, but I still get that kind of excitement every time I'm on set of something that's being filmed, because I can't believe this is actually happening. It's amazing.
That is so lovely to hear. I can just imagine, you know, the energy of that and how that buoys you up, and especially after that kind of a process. It's almost like, it feels like caterpillar butterfly to me, where you know, you go into the cocoon of the script creation process, and I've started witnessing your process in your community. We'll jump to that in a second, and I'm on day 2 of your 5-day challenge, and the amount of how the professionalism is the word jumping to me. It's not the word I want, but the amount of effort that you put in, and it's not really effort, I mean, but into your process is just so incredible. And the way you walk through that in the transcripts and stuff in your course is also, you know, it's so lovely. You kind of lead me into the garden thinking, oh, there's some nice flowers. I can write a script here in a few minutes, no problem. And then suddenly, oh goodness, well, just this phase is like, could be this bigger thing if you like it to be. And so it feels very easy and accessible to me. So I really appreciate that so far. But it feels like that whole cocoon, you know, if you go into this bubble, you do this whole script thing, and then suddenly now you're bursting out into like, here's a big film set and actors and, you know, the things that so many of us sit at home on the telly and wonder about and imagine, and you're living that dream.
Yeah. And it's I mean, this is part of the thing I'm trying to do with the group, is, you know, I'm trying to demystify the whole process. And it's not some magical, mysterious thing that only really, really clever people can do. It's just, it's a job. It's a really fun job, but it is a job that anyone can do. I mean, you know, the thing I can't do is make someone talented and good with thinking up good stories, but I can get you through the process and get a professionally formatted script that hits all the right beats and notes and everything. You know, I can't guarantee that it'll be good or not. So that bit's up to you. You know, you have to bring that magic of thinking up a cool story and having some good dialogue. But I can get you through that process, demystify it, and it's just you sit down and you type the words, and then eventually you type the end and you have a script. Like, it's not it's not rocket science. It's not that complicated. It can take a while. It can be difficult, but it can be done. Anyone can do it. Yeah. And when I started out, I didn't know anybody in the industry. I didn't know how to write a script. There was very little information out there. There were a few books which were not helpful at all.
Interesting.
And there was a website, the Word Player website, which I think is still going, but I don't think it's updated very often. That was written by 2 screenwriters, and they would write articles now and again on a specific aspect of writing. That was really helpful. But there wasn't that much out there, so I had to kind of figure it out as I went along. So, you know, if I can do that with very little information, not knowing anybody in the industry, then, you know, and anyone can do it.
And you make it so easy and accessible, and also, you know, this kind of rekindles my memories of being a practice manager at Microsoft Consulting Services. Was recently I was talking to another member, Matt, who has a different group, a men's group. It's called the Free Men, and I was saying, well, you know, we could do these things and, you know, show everybody all the tricks we learned in school through all the coaches we've had. And he's like, but that's plagiarism. And I said, my friend, I used to work at Microsoft. It's called best practice. And so you're distilling the best practices that you've learned from standing on the shoulders of giants and now becoming, you're a giant in your own right. Excuse the pun. And and now you're teaching others, which is so wonderful. But the real cool moment that I had, consuming your information is that, this process could be applied not only to scripts, but this could be applied to books. And, what other kind of projects could people,
anything, and I called the group the Screenwriters Lounge because that's primarily my main focus. But I always say in everything, I will, when I say movie or script, just imagine I'm saying whatever you're thinking is beginning, middle, and end. Every short story has a beginning, middle, and end. Every book has a beginning, middle, and end. And they have characters, and they have high points and low points, and there's lots of similar beats. So you can use the process to, if you're trying to think up a story and develop it and make something of it, then it doesn't matter what format that's in. Obviously there'll be classes specifically focused on the actual script part of it, but if you're writing a book, then that's a class you could skip. So then you're ahead of everybody else, because you don't need that one.
And some of the other people that I've met, now I haven't spent the greatest amount of time in your group, but I've spent enough to realize there's some interesting other people in there too. It's not just everybody crowded around James. I mean, you've started the fire, but I feel like we're all sitting in a campground around a fire, sharing stories, and maybe some hot cocoa, and I don't know, out here that have s'mores, which honestly there's too much sugar in those things, if it even is sugar these days. But it feels like a lounge.
Yeah. And I try and treat it like I'm the host, and a good host kind of introduces people, gets you in, and goes, here's the stuff I've got, but then sits back and lets other people talk. Because if it was just all about me, then I wouldn't let other people make posts, but I want people to make posts and kind of talk about their own wins and what they're doing, and give each other advice, because the posts aren't the classroom. The classroom is obviously me passing on what I know and trying to help. And I dip into the posts as well. I'll reply as well. But in the posts, I'm just one of the people trying to get stuff in as well.
Right. I'm for me in CryptoEase, I have challenges. I want to be more like that. I want people to feel like that in the group, and I want them to feel like I can post things, I can, have my own say, and my opinion is valid, and I'm being heard. But at the same time, there's this 5D chess by 5D chess thing called crypto, and trying to distill that down into biteable chunks, consumable pieces that I think some of that definitely works. And then in other times, now in our new VIP in the mastermind, we have the call in a couple hours hosting, but then I'm also participating on purpose. And so I set up a wallet, and I'm bringing my own, I'm doing the thing with people to try to have more of that vibe. I love that, and I like that lounge feeling, and feeling of like, we're all just people, at the club, and it just happens to be James's club, and he's a cool guy, and he's made the space for us all to share in. Really love that.
I think, obviously, I think you have to be a bit more hand-on with yours, because if someone makes a post in my group and gives some bad advice, no one's going to lose $1,000.
Or worse, $1 million.
Or worse, yeah, which could happen in yours. So you have
maybe.
So I think you can be hands off to a certain extent, but I think you'll always have to keep an eye and just kind of go, let's just make sure no one's.
So the Screenwriters Lounge is James's group. I encourage everyone to check it out. If you feel creative, if you feel we want to take this journey and experience the how between need and want, then maybe you explore those ideas and jump in James's group. But James, the last question is, what does the future hold for us? And for James,
for in general or the group,
however you feel.
It's a big question.
Good.
In general, oh my God, it's hard to say. I mean, I want to get more people in. Obviously, it didn't really take off until the tiers arrived, and I knew that would happen because I was waiting for the tiers, because I thought it's not the kind of group you can just kind of go, I'll pay and join up and just see what's in there. You have to have a free aspect to it, and then a premium aspect. So as soon as that came in, it kind of people started arriving and finding it. I want people to keep coming in. So I spent those few months waiting for tiers, kind of building it and recording classes, and making posts and trying to pass on what I know.
Getting the structure in place, the vision that you had perceived, like this is the kind of lounge I want to have.
Absolutely, yeah. And I readed all the images about 5 times until I finally went, no one cares about the cover image. It's just like make the text readable and pick a background color. They're gonna go straight past that. They're not going to dwell in it and go, what a lovely image you've made. So it's just things like that, and just kind of figuring out, the kind of the style of it and the look of it and the feel, the kind of feel that I want. Yeah, and people have been coming in here and there slowly but surely, and they've been joining in, making posts of their own, which is great. That's what I want. So yes, I'm just hoping get some more people in. I'll keep recording classes, passing on my knowledge, questions, probably telling stories, because that's always I always liked when I was starting out. I always liked hearing about other people who had stuff made, because it kind of it's interesting, but it also made me think I could be that person. It was kind of like sort of living vicariously through their stories.
So funny you say that, because when I joined your group, it was like, what, James has been such an OG in this community on Skool, and I love that you keep showing up whenever you can. Even if it's just 5 minutes, there's some interaction, you letting us know you're still alive, you're still building your what to you feels like small crypto part, but you're learning the things that can scale. But you show up, and I'm like, well, gosh darn, I want to do this member spotlight, but I want to jump in your group and make you feel like I'm supporting you as well. And then I was like, well, why don't you just write a script? I'm like, oh my goodness, why am I agreeing to this? And so I'm evolving it, and I've been sharing my idea with Mama Julie and Hannah. Hannah's a writer. She's written a couple of books. She's unpublished, but I think she might enjoy your process. I don't know. It's up to her. And I'm encouraged, and I feel like, yeah, this is something I could do. And, even someone like me. So
you could always start with a short story as well, if you wanted to kind of like test it out and see how it works, and do it as a short story. And then if you kind of get into the short story and this is actually going to be way longer than I thought, then again it's like I kind of like I like to say, you tricked your brain into starting something without realizing it was actually going to be longer, or it may still be a short story, and that's fine too.
Makes me feel like writing essays for my English master back in school. Okay, cool. Yeah, that's doable. I mean, wow, this is amazing. Thank you. Do you have any sort of final words in a wrap up? But do stick around, please, after the marker.
I don't know. I think it's been a difficult few years for the industry, for most industries actually. It's been a tricky old time. In my industry, there's been the strikes and the lockdowns, which shut down quite a few productions, including one of mine, which was going to be really good, which is a shame. So I'm sort of cautiously optimistic that things are going to start picking up this year. To be fair, I did say that last year, and it didn't happen.
That sounds like me calling the bull in 2025. I took that sign off my door, and now 2026. Yes, I feel you there. I think we're all waiting. And incidentally, we're reaching the end of the Chinese year of the snake, and shedding those last sins, and now we're heading into the year of the horse, and it's a fire horse, which hasn't happened for 60 years, right? And so I'm a dog, which is not 1970, is not hugely benefited allegedly. But we're not one of the feature characters in the year of the fire horse. But I have 2 dragons in my house, my wife and my daughter, and the dragons do really, really well in it. And I know how to play with fire, so I figure I'm going to be okay. So, James, thanks for joining us. I really appreciate your time. And just real quick, what do you think is going to happen with crypto? What's going to happen with your portfolio?
Oh God, I don't know, because it just sort of I kind of jumped in years ago, just very quickly. I was like, this and that. I don't know. 2 things I'd heard of, 1 thing I'd never heard of, and the 2 things I'd heard of kind of just mostly stayed the same. The 1 thing I'd never heard of died an absolute death. It was, what was it? I think it was Litecoin.
Oh gosh, LTC. Wow.
Yeah.
Yes.
That your reaction tells me everything I need to know. I got rid of it. I got rid of it a while ago.
Okay, so that was a bright idea, in my opinion.
It was like £40 worth originally. Sure. And it went down to like 10, and I was kind of like, I don't think it's coming back. I'm gonna get rid of it. But yeah, I don't know. I mean, it's only kind of last year that I kind of got into it properly and kind of got interested and kind of went, I actually know something about this. It's not just random.
Yeah.
People do actually do proper things with this.
Absolutely.
So coming into your group has just kind of revitalized that. I have no idea. This is the thing. It's like, because it does feel so, I know it's not random, but it does feel so random. But just kind of starting to kind of look at the trends and see what happens and see how global events affect it. So it doesn't just live in a vacuum. It is very much affected by other things.
Huge. Yeah.
So I think I'm just going to like learn more about it. Depending how things go, it may not grow immediately for a few months, but I think once I figure out what I can do with it, then I can start adding slowly in dribs and drabs.
Okay.
And dump everything into Litecoin.
Well, thank you so much for giving so much of yourself here. Let me give you something in return. So from the and along our journey, I've been coalescing this. I mean, it's a branding of an ethos and a method that I've had all these years. But the Bull or Bear, we don't care, encapsulates that. And you've been respecting the Blue Chip Foundation. I know you have a little bit of Bitcoin, a little bit of ETH, a couple other things, maybe a little bit of XRP. I do too. And we can argue what, outside of Bitcoin and ETH, what could be blue chips. I think that's more of a conviction. But so you're doing that at the scale that you're doing it at, and now you just bought some Aero. And then you ate the chocolate. So this is like drinking the Kool-Aid. I thought that was genius, absolute genius. I love that. I wish there was a commercial that we were using to get people in the group. But that Aero, what I would encourage you to do, and I don't know if this is even a possibility for you financially or at the place that you're at in your willingness to invest in crypto and anything else that you're investing in. But if you were able to get to an amount of 2,500 Aero before April 8th, there is an event called the Aerodrome Flight School. I've been talking about the flight school in the group. Essentially, if we lock 2,500 Aero for 4 years, and when we lock it, we're earning income like a landlord, renting a house. We're earning rent on our assets. We don't have to sell them, and we can just park them. And using the method that I have, it's hands-free, it's hands-off. You collect your checks whenever you like, and then you could reinvest that one too. But if you are able to accumulate 2,500 Aero in one bunch and lock that up in DeFi before April 8th, so April 7th would be the last, I would say, then they bonus us. The flight school was a liquidity event that Aerodrome created to bootstrap the entire project. And this is the last flight school before they go to the new phase called MetaDex 03. Now, Aerodrome is so allied with Coinbase. They're intrinsically allied. And there'll be more context coming out about that through myself and other members like Celia, who's a crypto researcher, and Dr. Ritchie, who's a day trader, in fact, amongst other things. So if you're able to do that, awesome. If you're not, then there's a couple of things you could do. One is you can just hold the Aero until the asset appreciates and then maybe sell some and reinvest in something else you might like. But the Aero that you have can be put to work. The challenge is there's another limiter out. So beyond the 2,500, that's for that piece. The next milestone would be if you can achieve 1,000 Aero, then we can use the autopilot strategy. Okay, it takes a minimum of 1,000 Aero for they raised the limit from 400. I recorded a video one day with Mama Julie and it was 400. We got her locked up, and then 2 days later I made my YouTube video and it was like in the middle of the video and like, here's you lock your 400. Oh, it's 1,000. All right, let's scratch that video. So it is 1,000. But at today's price, I mean, Aero was just under 3 cents USD. So for about $300 US dollars, you can get 1,000 Aero. And I would encourage anybody to do that at a minimum. If you can't do the flight school, no worries. But that 1,000 Aero, we can get that locked up in the autopilot, and you just leave it. And it's just earning. It's whether you're at work or playing with your daughter or whatever you're doing in life, it's working for you. And that is entirely the whole sort of landlord rent crypto passive income concept. And then you have the luxury of later on deciding, well, I want to feel a little bit gone. Oh, you know what I'm going to do? I'm not going to waste my hard-earned money. I'm going to take some of my earnings. Maybe I'll put that on wonky coin or something. So that's definitely an approach you could take. But even if you're not able to do the 1,000, there are other ways to put it to work. It just would take a little more work to do that, but happy to, share that anytime.
Okay. Sounds good.
Yeah. So thanks again. Do you have any other words in closing or any other encouragements?
Yeah, just come and join in the lounge. I say the water's good. There's no water. It's a lounge. If there's water in the lounge, then something's gone badly wrong.
Yeah,
Come into the lounge. The carpet is good.
I'm sure it's like Leisure Suit Larry Lounge. I mean, it's plush, purple velvet or something. But
that's a different story altogether.
Definitely. And that's for a different community. James, it's been an absolute pleasure spending time with you. Thank you for sharing time here. And I hope you have a wonderful, wonderful rest of your day. And thanks for being the first member spotlight on CryptoEase with Mike.
Thank you for having me.